Hello, everyone, and welcome to season 2 of Stash Chats. Hello, Emma. We've got Sam from Sequin Girly Creates joining us here tonight. So I'm really excited to talk to Sam and hear all about her sewing stash and what she's been working on, a bit of sewing journey as well. So if you haven't watched any of the previous episodes of Stash Chats, they're all on the YouTube channel in the Stash Chats playlist. So we're trying them on YouTube Live rather than on Instagram to hopefully have fewer technical issues. But do leave us some comments. You feel free to ask questions for Sam as well, whatever you want to know about her stash. So I'm just going to add Sam in now. And yeah, we can get started with this chat.
Hello.
Hello, Sam. Welcome to Stash
I'm
Chat.
here.
I know. This is already going much better than the Instagram version of going live. So
That's
yeah,
good.
hopefully plain sailing from here.
Yeah.
So do you want to kick off the Stash Chats with just a little bit of introduction to yourself, like how you started sewing?
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Sam Sequin Girly on Instagram, Sequin Girly Creates on YouTube, but I'm also the person behind Southern Social and also the social directory, which I think we're going to talk about later, aren't we, Yvette?
Yeah.
Okay. When did I start sewing? I thought about this because I knew he was going to ask me this. I don't know. I grew up in a family where my mum sewed, my nan knitted, my dad made things, and they were just practical things. It never felt like it was fancy or extraordinary. And so I must have learned somehow along the way. I don't specifically remember being taught, apart from my nan teaching me how to knit and me making a very thin, skinny scarf for one of my teddy bears. And I've still got him. He's as old as me, and he's got this like sort of squash bit of fur around his neck where the scarf used to be. And so I remember when I bought my first house when I was 19.
Wow.
That was the days when you could afford a house at that age. Houses in the £28,000 bracket. And I remember going with my mum to like a fabric warehouse and buying fabric to sew my own curtains. So my mum must have told me about like header tape and things because I'd never sewn curtains before, and I sewed all the curtains in my house. And I remember making like little drawstring curtains to hide like a cupboard in like a chimney recess like this, and we'd use like the like window nets, like curtain nets, that stretchy wire. I remember hooking that on there. And then when I moved to Devon, I remember going on one of these like artist open studio events and a lady using felt. And I'd done like a fine art degree and I'd never dabbled with like mixed media. And this lady did like a course and I went and learned how to do like wet felting. And that then started me on using a sewing machine to like draw on top of it with the stitches. So I didn't start with making clothes or anything. I started with dropping the feed dogs and putting a darning foot on and doing all sorts of drawing and things. And that was the days before YouTube had tutorials or anything. So you had to learn through books and magazines. I remember getting these magazines from the US. And that was the days of chat rooms where I used to chat to people who I never saw. And we used to make like these little inches and little cards and send them to each other. And then at some point I started making bags with my textile art on, and I started selling them. This was a very long time ago. We're talking probably like 20 years ago. And I started selling them on Etsy and making them for like people I worked with and things. And then for one of the school fairs, I remember the school saying, can you sew some bits for the school fair? So I started making like little like money pockets and crayon rolls. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They're a bit like a jewelry roll where children can put their crayons in and roll them up. And then I made like cushions, and it just sort of spiraled from there. And on and off through all of that, every now and again I would make a piece of clothing. But the most intense like clothing sewing has been in the last 3 years, I would say. But I've always done some kind of sewing along the way, so I can't really say when.
quite a like innate part of your life and learning then, sort of quite natural.
Yeah.
So would you say that like garment sewing you kind of picked up as more of like a pandemic hobby, or just this happened to be the timing when you felt
It wasn't during the pandemic, for definitely not. I was one of those uncommon people that had no spare time during the pandemic.
busier than ever?
I was a head teacher of a prep school, was in Bromley, which was an hour and a half to 2 hour drive from where I live. And so I was still going into school almost every day because we had children in. I was teaching all my staff how to use Zoom or whatever technology. We were learning like a week ahead of what we needed to do with the children. The best bit about it was I was driving on the M25 with only me and the lorries. There was no one else on there. But I don't envy what anyone went through in the pandemic. But the one thing I wished I'd had was a chance to stop and do something, and I didn't. And I know now, looking back, it massively burnt me out.
Yeah.
And it's actually since then, and actually coming out of the teaching profession, that I've had more time to focus on my sewing and my garment sewing, really. So I'm a post-pandemic garment sewer.
Yeah. So how have you found like the sewing community? Because you're a very active member of the community now. So like when did you kind of get into that?
So that didn't really happen for me until I started my YouTube channel. So during the pandemic, I'd had to learn how to make videos because I needed to do assemblies for the whole school, and doing them live was doing all of them live was quite stressful because the children were learning often quicker than we were how to use things like Zoom. So I remember presenting an assembly and suddenly someone's scribbling and drawing across the screen. And I had to learn very quickly how to switch those things off because children are amazing at learning things. And so what I started doing was pre-recording the Monday morning assembly, because a lot of our families were finding they couldn't get up and get on a live assembly first thing in the morning. And actually they preferred being able to watch it when they wanted. So very quickly, I had to work out how to get enough light, how to record on my phone, and how to edit. And so earlier in 2023, I thought, why don't I use those skills to try starting a YouTube channel? And it's once I started that things started to roll, because people started saying, oh, would you like to come to this? Or, oh, I didn't know about you, and would you like to do this? And being invited to things got me started on realizing what was out there, because I didn't really know. And I don't really, well, I do now, but I didn't at the time have any friends in real life that sewed. So it can be an incredibly lonely hobby, can't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of set up for you to do it in your own house.
Yes.
So then you're just there on your own sewing away and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. But having
Yeah.
the
And
community I found really good.
yeah, and I think that once some lovely people started inviting me to things, I began to realize what was possible. And I realized, I never thought about it at the time, but one of your jobs as a head teacher is actually events manager, because I thought about all the nativities and the parents. So I was able to use those skills to organize things. And I know for a lot of people, organizing events is like the stressful bit. For me, I don't find it too stressful. I was obviously very worried that no one would turn up, and I'll have paid for a room and no one would come.
I think that's definitely the worst part of like organizing things. If nobody comes, you're like, oh, put
Yeah.
all this work in.
But through that, I actually have met people now who live locally to me, and I've made an amazing friend who lives in the next town over from me. But none of that would have happened if I hadn't actually started my YouTube channel. And I'm going to like other people's, I'm going to other people's socials. Christine and I still haven't met, but we've become amazing friends. She's Gemini Stitches on YouTube, and we're finally meeting up at the end of January. And all of this has come out of, realizing that actually there is lots of people out there that want sewing friends too. And the community, as you say, is amazing. I love it. It's just brought so much joy to my life.
Amazing. So I will come back a bit later to talk about the Southern Social and the other socials, but now let's talk about your stash. Like, how do you feel about your stash?
I think that's been on as much of a journey as I have, because originally it was almost all quilting cottons, because first of all, I didn't really know a lot of types of fabric existed. And also because I was mostly making bags and things, quilting cotton's perfect for that.
It's got the good prints as well.
Yeah, great prints. So a lot of what I had was fat quarters, and so you couldn't do much else with it either. That was part of the problem as well. But since I've taken up sewing garments again, my stash has hugely changed, and I cleared out all the fat quarters. I might show you if you're lucky. Over there, there's quite a scary corner where it's all the like bits that are not any good for sewing clothes with. And then earlier this year, when I did my YouTube confessions about my stash, it was more for me. I find making the videos I find really helpful, almost like a sort of a visual journal for me. And I realized that if I didn't, until I organized it, I couldn't plan, and I couldn't think about what I'd got, and I couldn't think about what I wanted to do. So I took everyone on that journey with me. I'm now a massive advocate of rolling your fabric. I roll everything, and it's because before I would, otherwise I'd spiral it. I'd pull one thing out and everything else would like tumble round. Rolling has stopped that. And I also realised, I don't know why I hadn't done that to my fabric, when like all my tights and my t-shirts and everything are all organised in this, like, I don't know if you've heard of it, KonMari folding.
Yeah, where you can see them all like standing up. Yeah, I love that.
All my tights are like that, all my t-shirts. And so I was like, why haven't I done this to my stash? So being able to see everything and being able to take something out and put it back without causing a squirrely mess it's been a revelation.
Yeah, I think having storage that is like convenient is like one of the most important things, because like whatever it looks like, it doesn't really matter. But if you can't get things in and out, and you can't like access half the stuff, it's just so unappealing to like approach it.
Definitely. And also then I was really bad at putting it away as well, because it wasn't easy to put away. And that's something I know about myself, is if it's not easy to put away, I won't put it away.
Yeah, and then it becomes a mess somewhere it's not supposed to be.
Life, that's the same with everything. If everything has a place and it's easy, now let's be clear, I'm not a tidy person, but if it's got a place and it's easy, I'm much more likely to put it away.
It's easier to put, it's less work to put it back than it is to like keep tripping over it all the time.
Yeah, because otherwise I would just pile things up, just thinking, oh, I'll come back to that later. I'll put it away properly, because I'm a do it properly or don't do it kind of person. So I just pile it. And also when I did the organizing, I sorted it by type. So all my vintage fabrics are together, all my jerseys are together, and then all my like viscose and that sort of thing are together. And that's made it a lot easier as well.
Yeah, Jill says it's a game changer for sure. Like, so they've obviously organized their stash as well. So I think it just makes it so much easier, like, to get inspired if you know what you've got and like where to find what you need if you get a specific idea in mind.
Definitely. And also it feels, I always used to talk about shopping my own wardrobe, but now I can shop my own stash.
Yeah,
it's much nicer.
So what are your like fabric buying habits like?
I go in peaks and troughs. I've had to really work on reminding myself, and you put this, I know, on Instagram the other day, that there will always be more amazing fabric. Because I like bright colours, because I like really strong patterns, I worry that I might miss out on the one, and I have to persuade myself that there'll be another the one. So this year I put myself on a only buy plains sort of fabric ban for 3 months, and that was also it wasn't to sort of punish myself, it was to make me realize that actually I do need plains as well, because otherwise I'd got a wardrobe full of vintage, thrifted and made clothes that are all bright colors and amazing patterns, but I can't wear anything together.
I was listening to a podcast the other day and they said something about wardrobe orphans, and I was like, this is so sad, but I know exactly what you mean. Like, I save the orphans, get something that matches them.
So it really helped actually doing that for myself, because it made me think about, because I wasn't looking for plains either. When I was going on whatever website I was on, I was always getting attracted by the patterns, and actually making me purposefully search websites for plains was quite an interesting process, actually, of learning, you know, which fabric sellers have plains, because they're not their big sellers either, are they? They're like the workhorse fabrics behind the scenes. They're not the ones you see on the Instagram stories when they're trying to get you to go and shop on their page. And actually, sometimes now a whole order I'll do will be plains, which I amazed myself the other day with that. So I do buy fabric. I try to buy it with a plan in mind, but I don't beat myself up if I don't. I do sometimes get a bit of guilt if I buy too much and I can't fit it away. That tells me it's time to stop if I can't fit it away and I'm having to hide it in a cupboard. And then it makes me feel a bit weird as well. I do worry about the material version of fast fashion. I stopped buying new clothes about 4 or 5 years ago. I took part in the Oxfam Secondhand September, and I never stopped after that. So I don't beat myself up if I do buy new clothes, but I would say probably in the last 4 years, I've bought less than 10 brand new pieces of clothing. So everything else is either charity shop or from vintage sellers. So then I suddenly thought, hang on a minute, I'm buying fabric that's brand new, and then I get myself in a bit of and then I calm myself down.
Yeah. Sheila
Do you want to see my stash?
Yeah, let's have a look. Shall we get you big on the screen? Oh, we had this comment that from Sheila saying they love the term wardrobe orphans as well, and they often make something and have nothing to wear. I think especially when you're like really attracted to prints and like bold designs, and then you just end up with loads of them, like you said. Here we go. Let's see if I can make you bigger on the screen. Can I do that? Oh, no.
You were bigger.
Sorry.
Hopefully people will be able to. So I'm doing this today in the room that I don't always. Oh,
sorry. I'm just trying to make you bigger, but I'm just making me big.
Oh, that might be better. Oh, it was like close up then.
How can I?
You had me like close up next to you. That was quite good.
Here we go. There, you're big now.
Right, so the room I'm in isn't my sewing room. I don't have an official sewing room, but this is the room where I have some of my sewing things. So what I have in here is where I store like my wovens. So they're all down there like that. So as you can see, it's all rolled. I try to put like the longer meterage at the top and the smaller meterage at the bottom, because then when I'm planning, I know what length I need. And you've got all sorts of things. So some of these things I found in charity shops as well, but that's my woven stash. My jersey and my vintage stash are in other rooms in cupboards. I've also decided if I put it all together, my other half might realise how much I have.
They're kind of like roses all rolled up, the fabrics, aren't they? They're quite aesthetic.
It's quite aesthetic, isn't it?
Yeah. Nice. So where do you sew then? What's your sewing setup?
So we don't have a spare room upstairs. We have a box room, which is my office from when I work from home. So at the weekend, my work from home bits get put away and I get my sewing machine and my overlocker out there. Some evenings I'll do that as well. In terms of cutting, I have a MDF piece of wood that goes into whichever room I want to cut in. So sometimes I'll be in the sitting room watching a movie while I'm doing like because I often batch cut. Sometimes I can be found in the hallway outside my office on my lunch break upstairs cutting. So the problem is there's a lot of hoovering needs to be done because the threads travel around the house. So I don't have a cutting table or anything. I just have this bit of wood that travels around the house that I use. So.
Yeah, I feel like the threads thing is an issue like wherever you sew and cut out, though. They just sort of sneak around your house. They're just always there trying to get you.
I know, and then I hoover, and then 5 minutes later I'm like, where has it come from? And I must be like traveling it on my socks or something. It's just like
Jill said, what's a box room? Maybe you don't have box rooms in America because you've got nice big houses, but it's basically just a room in your house that's like a really small room that you like maybe is too small even to get a bed in. So I mean, you just use it to store
my stepdaughter used to have the room when she was little, and I don't know if people in the US, like you have the cots that would convert into a little toddler bed, and a little toddler bed will fit in there. But you're right, Yvette. I mean, you couldn't fit a full size bed in the room. No.
Yeah, this is just how they like sell you a house by being like, oh, it's a 3-bedroom house, when you like one of the bedrooms is absolutely minuscule, so it may as well be a closet, Jill.
Yeah. Yeah, I was to say in the US it would be a walk-in wardrobe or a walk-in closet. Yeah.
So as sequin girly, I have to ask, have you got a stash of sequin fabric?
Yes. So I don't have like fabric that is all covered in sequins because I won't buy now new sequins. But I do have a lot of fabric that is, you know, what some people would think is only wear for best, but I'm not. I don't wear it for best person. I had a great suggestion on one of my dresses I made the other day because I didn't get to wear it at Christmas, and someone said it would look great down the aisle in Sainsbury's. So I am planning an early or late night shopping trip to Sainsbury's where I'll whip off the
Excellent.
coat and take a picture for everyone. Do you want to know where the name came from?
Yes.
So when I first started my Etsy shop about 20 years ago, I had to come up with a name, and the textile I did at the time had a huge amount of sequins and small beads. I used to do a lot of beading, and when I was in my teens I used to make jewelry, so I had lots of beads and things like that. And so I just came up with the name Sequin Girly because I thought it was a good name for my shop. And it's just stuck. It feels, I've had it for now at least 20 years, so I feel very much like that's part of my identity. I have been asked several times over the years, is that my porn name?
Who's asking you that?
Well, the thing is, because when I started the shop, the advice, like it is now, is make sure your email address matches your shop name. So I did. And I have other professional email addresses now, because the last thing you want is to put that on like a CV. But when I used to have to like give people my email address, you know, like when you're in a shop or on the telephone, someone says,
Yeah.
what's your email address? And so I say Sequin Girly, and then people, random people who I'd never met, would go, is that your porn name? And I'd go, no. So nowadays, if I have to give that address, I usually just spell it because then people don't realise what it is.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So we had a question from Jennifer, who's That's So Me 253, who says, do you have any tips for sewing with sequins?
They're really stressful and messy, aren't they? I think I used to do a lot of hand stitching on of sequins, and when I used to do that, I would always use like this invisible thread. It's almost like fishing line. And I must have bought like a bulk load of it on eBay because I've still got loads of reels of it. And the annoying thing is you can't see it until you're like trapped in it as well. It's like, because those kind of threads don't have like the nice lockable bit on them, so like trailing around. Just be ready for the mess, I would say, is all I can say. I've got a nice beading mat that have from the years ago when I used to make a lot of jewelry, that means things don't roll or fly away. So if you were like sewing things on, I would say definitely get one of those. It's just like, I don't know, it's like a fluffy mat, but it stops things traveling about, which is useful as well.
Yeah, I can imagine having like a whole like tin of tiny beads like spilled across the
Yeah.
desk is a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you feel like sewing like compares to your previous kind of crafty hobbies that you've had?
Um, I think the thing that I have come to let go of in the last few years that I used to have was thinking that every single one of my hobbies needed to become side hustle worthy. And it was quite freeing when I realized that actually not everything I create, whether it's a garment or something else, because I paint and I do get told at home, please don't take on another hobby. There's no more room for anything else. You know, whether I'm doing like fun cake decorating, which by the way, I'm not amazing at, but it's fun. Is I don't need to do it to a standard where someone would pay money from it. And actually, when I realized that a couple of years ago, it was quite a freedom to think that, because sometimes I do like those embroideries that, you know, like the kit where someone's already designed it.
Yeah.
And to start with, I didn't understand them. And then I realized that actually it was something super freeing about the fact that someone else had planned it for me. And I could just relax and enjoy the process. But then I started putting pressure on myself that it wasn't quite good enough. And then I couldn't hang it in the downstairs loo. And then I was like, hang on a minute, this is supposed to be enjoyable. for? What am I doing to myself? So I think now I'm much more relaxed about not having to do anything to that high standard that I could side hustle it. I think that my sewing of garments is equally as creative and as maverick as any other hobby I've done. I'm not very good at going straight down the line of a process. I think when I used to do textile art, I would be fusing carrier bags together and putting it through my sewing machine. And again, I just worked it out as I was going along. And I'd probably say that's pretty much how I've done my garment sewing as well. So.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like with garment sewing compared to like even other kinds of sewing, like making bags and stuff, because you're sewing it to your body and like your measurements, it is already quite a lot more personal. So,
Mm.
you know, even if someone else was like, "Oh, I like that," you're like, "Well, it's not your size. I made it for me." So
Yeah.
it's I think it's definitely a really good hobby to have as like your thing that you do. So we've got a question from Emma that's what's your favorite make? If you've got to choose one.
Oh, okay. Can I have a couple of favourites for different reasons?
Go for it. Well, I'll allow it. I don't know
Thank
what Emma
you.
thinks.
It's your rules of it, so you can allow it. So one of my favourite makes in terms of the love and the process that I put into it is a quilted jacket I made. And it was one of the first things I did, because again, that's classic me, just throw myself into something. I wanted to use up some of those fat quarters that I bought because they were gorgeous patterns and hadn't used. And I realized if I made it a quilted jacket, I could use them. So instead of buying a quilt or buying pre-quilted fabric, I went from absolute scratch. So I joined all the bits together, found a pattern because I didn't really know about the independent pattern companies or anything at that point. So I bought a pattern off Etsy, like quilted it onto the wadding, used a duvet for the lining. So when I wear it, I love it because it's got all of these fabrics in that I bought through all the years, and I chose all the best bits as well. So that's definitely one of my favorite makes. It's not the best fitted jacket, but I feel super proud of it when I wear it. Favorite makes in terms of makes I wear all the time would be my twist front jersey dresses. And again, I had a dress that I liked that had a knotted twist bit that I bought years ago from Gap. And I was like, I want to replicate this. And I didn't buy a pattern. I looked on YouTube, I messed around, did paper practicey bits until I came up with my own pattern. And I've made it probably like 5 or 6 times now. And every fabric looks different. I do different length sleeves, different type collars. So I love those. I always feel great when I put them on. So.
Amazing. I really love doing these chats because every time I speak to someone, everyone's got such like a different approach, like to different parts. And I feel like you're very much like a creative, like an experimenter, like you're not afraid to try things, which I think is really
Well, the thing is,
exciting.
unless I publicise it, no one will know if I've messed it up. I can just stuff it in the
Exactly.
horrendous corner, and you won't know. So
Exactly. Okay. We've got saw that dress on your overlocker vlog. It's fab. So this is your pattern that you made, isn't it?
yes.
Awesome.
So today's vlog that went out was me persuading people that to use their overlockers, and actually there's some great jerseys out there. Because obviously, I know people watching don't know, but Yvette was recording our podcast with us yesterday, and her and Jess, I don't mind saying this, we're going, oh, there's not many nice jersey fabrics out there, and funnily enough, I'd already recorded the vlog, and so I shared them on the today's vlog, but there is a whole separate vlog actually on how to do it. I made an episode showing everyone how they could do it from their own pattern block. So whether you've got like the Freya top or any sort of simple t-shirt top, how you could do it. So if anyone wants to have a go, I encourage you to, because no one will know if you mess it up.
Yeah, that's great encouragement. Yeah, I do sew a little bit of jersey, but I think it's because I'm a nerd and I like pressing, and like a good cotton just really presses it up nice and it's so satisfying.
I want to feel like I'm wearing secret pajamas even when I look super smart, and that's what jersey does for me. So.
Yeah, that is good. So the next question is, what is your favorite sewing bee challenge? I guess of the three, like the pattern challenge, the transformation, and the made to measure.
So I love transformations, but I love like upcycling, but I get really frustrated with some of the weird ones, and it must be hard for the sewing bee to keep coming up with new ones. But that episode with cleaning products to upcycle, like mops and things, I just was like, I had to look away because I understand the pressure they're under to make TV interesting. That would be my favourite to do if I was on there, because I have no problem sort of coming up with how I can fit things together. In 2023, I took 2 vintage M&S skirts I couldn't wear anymore because my waist was too big, and I combined them together into one skirt. And so I'm not frightened to do that. So I would love that, unless I was given the cleaning one with all the J cloths and the mops. I'd be well annoyed.
As an artist, like, how do you feel about like the one where they did canvases, like painted canvases?
I really liked that. I thought it was a much sort of better way of looking, because that's actually what, you know, when if you look at like runways and things and the kind of clothing you see sort of at the London Fashion Week and things, that I thought that was a much more creative way of using something. Because again, when I used to paint a lot, I do paint a bit sometimes, you will have paintings that will never see the light of day for anyone, because if anyone has ever read into any artist, they paint hundreds, if not thousands, of pictures that never get seen, or paint over them. So actually the idea of using a bit of canvas that has some paint on it and turning it into a garment, I really like that, because it could be really interesting and have a new life for something as well.
Yeah. Well, the structure they got out of them as well was
Yeah,
really insane. Like some of them did really good things, but I think
they
it is
did.
such a tricky thing, the transformation challenge. You kind of have to like, it's like first idea, best idea, and you just do
Yeah.
it because
And
you
I
just don't
know
have
how much
time.
that terrifies so many people. I've talked through the things I've done in the last year with the sewing community, the amount of people who've said to me that is the challenge that terrifies them.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's really interesting actually, because speaking to a lot of the people that have like previously been on the sewing bee, a lot of them say that the transformation was their favorite, even if they thought before that they wouldn't enjoy it. They were just like, oh, it's just like really creative, and it just didn't feel like the stakes were high because you had
Mm.
no idea what you were going to make, like going into it, even starting it, you just sort of had to keep going.
Sort of the everything, everyone's technical knowledge, everything's just thrown out for that, isn't it? You know, anyone can
Yeah.
come out of that on top, I think, as well. It levels the playing field a bit, I think. Yeah.
The only thing that really winds me up is when the judges mark people down because they're like, oh, I don't like the choice of the fabrics. I don't like these fabrics together. I'm like, you gave them like 3
Yeah.
brown pairs of men's underpants. Like, what do you
Yes.
expect?
I know. I agree. There was the Christmas one with, oh, I can't think who she is, that used to be in EastEnders, who used to play the trumpet in EastEnders. I'm dreadful with
Oh,
names.
Sonia.
Sonia, and it was last Christmases, not the Christmas that's gone on before. And you're right, she was like, you gave me brown things. I didn't have much choice. Yeah.
So would you sign up for the sewing bee? The second half of this
People have
question.
told me I should, um, but and I know some people who've got through like round 1 or whatever, but I don't like the idea of the time pressure, because I don't know. I get really like I feel this about a lot of things that have got timings. I feel it about exams as well. There's very few jobs where doing it super fast is graded as the highest importance. And I know it's tricky. I know it's a TV show, but just seeing what it does to people when they can't get it done in time, I just don't know if I want to do that to myself. Um, and that's probably the biggest thing that puts me off it, is the time pressure. And I saw someone said, it might have been on one of the chats with you, saying just how supportive all of the crew and everybody is.
Yeah, it's good to know as well that they
Yeah,
are, because otherwise you're
yeah,
just like, oh God, imagine if you're there crying because you can't finish your hem, and then
yeah,
everyone's like
yeah.
zooming
But
in on your face.
I know, but I just, yeah, that's my biggest reluctance, is feeling the time pressure.
Feeling stressed when it's
Yeah,
just not necessary. Well, I think
yeah.
that leads on nicely to Mel's question of what's your worst dressmaking nightmare?
Do we mean what's happened to me, or if I was asked to do?
I don't know. We can do both. What's a disaster that you've had in your sewing life where you're like, oh God.
The disaster that happens more than any other is when I get a bit of fabric looped under the fabric as it goes through the overlocker.
Oh
And,
no,
and,
and
and
it's
by the time I realise it's cut a chunk out, and then when you unfold that bit of fabric, there's a hole. I've had
yeah,
that happen multiple times, and it happened on a dress that I hadn't noticed it had happened on. And I
no,
put it on, and I was super happy. It was my very first season of East Summer in New York dress, and I was looking in the mirror, and I was going to wear it to my mother-in-law's birthday party, and then I lifted up my arm, and I went, "Oh no!" There was this hole. It was like this big, flapping, because of course the
oh,
overlocker just cut the three sides of it,
because
and
and
I
so it makes that big like V kind of
yeah,
cut, can't it? And
exactly.
you're like,
Yeah, it was like the length of my palm, and I
oh
was like,
no,
and it wasn't, and it's not even like this the first time that's happened to me. And so I decided, no, I'm going to fix it, because if I didn't notice it till I lifted up my arm, no one else is going to notice. So I got a bit of like Bonder web and another bit of the fabric and ironed it behind, so that even though it didn't fully fit, there was the right color fabric behind.
yeah.
No one has ever said anything, so I assume no one's ever noticed. It's luckily just like down where you put your arm, but I couldn't believe it. So I
Oh,
say
it's
that was
so
probably my
annoying.
worst thing that happened, in terms of like horrified when I saw it. Worst nightmare if I was asked to do it would probably be like a super well fitted pair of trousers with all the like belt loops and the fancy zip and all of that, because it would feel so technical and I'd feel under a lot of pressure. I think that would be the thing that
Yeah.
I would hate the most.
Also, like fitting trousers on someone else, you'd have to
Yeah,
feel like quite comfortable with them, or
it's
like,
quite an
you'd
intimate thing, isn't it?
yeah, or like you'd put a twirl on them and they'd be like, yeah, it seems okay, and you're like, no,
No,
no, you see this bit here in the bum, that's got to go, and got to put some more room here, and
it
those
makes me
calves
think
are
of the
looking
Friends
sad.
episode when they go to get the suits measured.
Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, I think, yeah, that would be my worst nightmare in terms of if someone asked me to do it. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Let us know in the chat if you've got any more questions for Sam. What else do I need to ask you? What are you working on at the moment, Sam? What are you sewing?
So I am working on Ponte trousers. I am on a mission to create a wardrobe that I will wear at home, because until a year ago, as I say, I was a head teacher, so my wardrobe was designed for putting on and wearing out in the world in a front-facing job. It was still incredibly bright, incredibly colourful, including a child one day saying to me, "Why are you dressed like a princess?" I wasn't, but that's what the child thought.
You're just like, I'll
And
take it.
I said, I just like feeling twirly, which is the truth. I was known, one lady took a job working for me. She said, I loved your shoes and your vision for the school. That was how she answered it.
Shoes first, vision for
Yeah,
school. Yeah, okay. Secondary to the
yeah.
shoes.
So, you know, even my wardrobe then, it was a very bright wardrobe. I've got one design of shoes in 5 different colorways, because I always believe if you find something that's comfy, buy it in every
Yeah,
color. So I really did. But that wardrobe wasn't working for me once I started working from home 3 days a week. Some days I'm out more, but on average it's 3 days a week at home. And so I was staying in my PJs all day.
yeah,
And that's because they were snuggly, they were comfy, and particularly in the winter, it was too cold to get changed. And I realised that then I wouldn't move my body as much because I felt like I was in my PJs. Then I realised that I wouldn't pop out to the shops or the post office because I was in my PJs. So I was like, nope, I need to make a wardrobe that works. So that's what my whole autumn winter has been, is making a wardrobe that I will put on that feel like pajamas, but I'm prepared to go out in the world in.
yeah. Secret
So
pajamas.
that is now I'm onto Ponte trousers. I saw a pair of trousers in Sainsbury's TU clothing. It's like a supermarket for our US friends, and they were like really nice flat waistband, so not gathered, little slanted pocket, and I was like, that's the trouser. That's the trouser I need for. So I put out a shout out on Instagram for some pattern ideas. Lovely people gave me some ideas. I got the Pattern Emporium Walk Boldly pattern. It's my first time sewing a Pattern Emporium pattern, and what a lot of choice you get, and what great instructions, I would say. If anyone's not sewn with them, really, really impressed. And I love the trousers as well.
Great, exciting. So have you got like sewing goals for 2024?
Yes, so that's to finish the comfortable work from home wardrobe, because it's not there yet. So I think I've cracked jumpers, and I've cracked sort of like having nice cardies like this one, and having this in plain means I can wear it with all my patterned clothes as well. But that was the biggest gap, was that sort of go-to trouser. So obviously finding the Walk Boldly has been good, but that's not enough. I don't want just a wide leg trouser. I want to find another go-to trouser pattern. So I'm still working on that. I've got a couple of different patterns to try. I'm part of the Closet Core crew, or whatever it's called, the Closet crew, and they've just had a pattern come out called the Onyx pants. So I'm going to try those, and I think it's the Sew Over It. What is it? Essential pants, essential trousers.
They've got some that's like ultimate trousers, maybe.
That's the one, ultimate trousers. So I've got those to try as well, because I've got a couple of M&S pairs of trousers from a few years ago. They're like a sort of a 3/4 length, and because I'm short, they're almost full length on me. And they're just that perfect cut of trouser. And I was like, I want to find a pattern like that, so then I can make them in whatever colour I want. So my biggest goal, I think, 2024 is trousers, and then just continuing to build a wardrobe that, whether I'm going out to work or working from home, is all equally as joyful. That's the box.
Joyful and comfortable sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
Mel recommends the Mitchell trousers by Closet
I've got
Core.
that pattern actually. Yeah, thank you. I'll definitely try that.
Also, I'm a fan of the Danny trousers because they're elasticated. So
yeah, so
nice
I don't mind elasticated, but my problem with elasticated is sometimes it cuts me when I'm sat down right at the part of my body where I don't want to feel like I can feel that bit of my body.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I'm trying out that with a flat waistband. So.
Yeah. So would you combine your teaching and your sewing skills to teach sewing classes?
I have thought about this, and I've been looking into this, because people often ask me, because I taught for 23 years, and people say, do you miss it? It's weird. I don't hugely miss it, because I still work with schools in the job I've got, but I do miss teaching other people. There's a joy to helping someone learn something that I miss. And so I have thought, could I use my knowledge to teach people? And I have thought, maybe I'll start with jersey, because I'm such a big advocate of that. So it's something I might look into this year. I think I would love to help people to try something perhaps that they wouldn't try, rather than like classic sewing classes. So I had a really interesting comment on my Instagram yesterday of a lady who said I'd really empowered her to try and put more colour in her wardrobe. And I love it when people tell me things like that. When I'm having a day where I'm not sure if I should keep going, that keeps me going. And so I put a little question out on Instagram asking people if they'd like me to talk a bit more about that, and people have said yes. My colleagues at work often say to me, oh, how do I get more colour in my wardrobe? So I don't know, maybe something to do that. But I think, yes, in the long run, I would love to combine the two. So if anyone wants me to test out my skills on them, I'm open to a guinea pig.
I feel like giving people confidence to do pattern hacking and like adjusting patterns as well, I think would be really valuable, because obviously you do quite a lot of that. And there are people that are very nervous, or like even just the thought of doing like any kind of maths, it's just like, no, I'm not doing it. I'll just make it what's in the pattern, and it's not quite what I want, but I'll just do that because I don't know what to do. But I think just to say, you know what, if you want another seam there, just do this, add a bit of seam allowance.
Do that, There's a lovely lady called Mary who's in her 70s who comes to my in-person social, And Mary's sewn all her life, and she was taught like the correct methods. And Mary tells me, and she's spoken about it openly, so it's not a secret, that she still hears her mum saying, "That's a bit showy." And Mary once went to put gold buttons on something when her mum was still alive, and her mum said, "That's a bit showy." So one of the things that my friendship with Mary is I'm saying, "Mary, you be as showy as you want." And she came fabric shopping with me, and I was like, "Get it. If you love it, Mary, just get it." And she said to me, "Sometimes the things I do make her clench her bum cheeks." She's like, "What are you doing?" And she says, and then she sees what I do, and she's like, "Oh, okay." And so she said, I am encouraging her to just take a risk. And I love that I can give that gift to Mary. So yeah, maybe that's, I don't know how I sell that to people, but maybe one day that's the gift I can give everyone.
But I think that's part of being like part of the community as well, that you can get that encouragement from other people to get outside of your comfort zone. So shall we chat a bit about the Southern Social now? So this is an in-person sewing sessions that you've set up. So how is all that going?
So I'd like to thank the lovely Ruth who invited me to the Staffordshire Social, which is a long way for me. It's over a 2-hour drive, but it was lovely when she invited me, and everyone was so welcoming when I went. And they encouraged me, like you said, the sewing community are so encouraging, and they said, well, why don't you set one up near a home? And so I did. And when I was trying to work it out, really lovely people were happy to give me advice. So other people who'd set up socials were more than happy to tell me what they'd done, how they'd done things. And that was so lovely, because it's so difficult otherwise to know where to start. And that's why I made a vlog about it, because I thought I can share what I've learned. And I did a live chat with Jenny, who runs the virtual sewing room, helping other people to get started. And if anyone ever wants advice, I'm happy. I've spoken to people on the telephone. I'm more than happy to share what I've learned. And I then made a friend, as I said, locally, who again just gave me that little confidence boost that I wasn't on my own. There was someone to ring to say, what do you think about this? Am I doing this right? And just because sometimes you just got to run it past somebody. And so I set up, the very first one was like the beginning of September last year. And it filled up on one day. I couldn't believe it. And I had so many people upset. I ended up doing one at the end of September as well. And then I do one, it's now once a month. I took a break for January though, but the next one's in February. And I think there's one space left if anyone wants to come. So it is in Buckinghamshire, but it's really near to like Oxfordshire, Bedfordshire, Milton Keynes. So where I live is very close to like the M25 and the M40. So I have like people come from like bits of London. There's a lady who often drives up from Gosport to come, which I think is phenomenal. And Julie, who sews her own clothes on YouTube, she's coming from Essex again. She's been before. I love it. I love the fact that people can chat to each other. I keep it small on purpose, so I only have a maximum of 14 people, because it means that even if someone's not chatty, they can feel like they're part of the conversation. And the room I'm in has got carpet, so it's not big and echoey as well. And I could have hired the bigger room, but I chose not to, because I felt that if somebody's nervous or someone doesn't feel hugely confident, the last thing you want to do is go into a big echoey room. And so that's part of my vision, is I wanted to make it accessible to anybody. So I made sure it was ground floor, all the accessible parking. And also, if anyone's ever nervous and wants to just come and have a look one time, I'm more than happy for people to do that, because I know for some people going into a room full of other sewists could be quite a stressful thing. And I will always want to help with that. So then out of that, I set up the virtual social. And that was partly out of helping people who were nervous to come, but also people in the US who couldn't come. So the virtual social, we get people from all over the world. Christine and I run those together. And we've had people who've come to that first and then come to the real one, because it gives them a taste. And again, there's no expectation to talk. There's no expectation to have camera on. And I love what it's doing for other people. It gives me such joy when I see people making friends or getting to ask people's advice and helping each other, or finding an amazing fabric on a swaps table. It brings me so much joy to be able to do it. So.
Yeah, that's really exciting. So yeah, I'm doing Surrey sews with Mel. So we're doing our meetups, and we're doing our first like social sewing in February. So that'll be quite exciting. Hopefully some people come. But that's the good thing about having your like a buddy to like help you set it up, because at least worst case scenario is just going to be me and Mel doing some sewing. So it's all good.
Yeah. It's a great thing, and I'm always super tired at the end of the day, but it's tired because I'm just worrying that everyone's having a nice time, and it's not a bad tired. But yeah, and at Christmas we did Secret Santa, and one of the lovely ladies, Charlotte, she did spare ones, which was really kind, because then if anyone forgot one, she'd done spare, and I it's just, yeah, it always fills my heart with joy every time. So I hope you get lots of people come. I'm sure you will, Yvette.
Yeah, I'm quietly confident, let's say. So are you putting together like a directory of socials to help people find them?
I put it together a good few months ago, and I have to say I've neglected it a bit because I started the podcast and all these other things. So if there's anybody out there who would like to help me, a couple of people did offer, but their lives got busy, and that's what happened. So on Facebook and Instagram, there is an account called The Social Directory, spelled SEWCIAL. I rely on people telling me where they are, because if I don't know, I can't put them on the directory. And it came out of people saying, I wish I could come to yours, but it's too far away. So I thought, okay, let's start collating them together, helping people find them, because I'm a big believer that there's room for all of us to do all the wonderful things we want. And I get on really well with Jenny, who runs the virtual sewing room. We're not in competition with each other, because there's more than enough room. And some people who come to mine go to hers too, and all that sort of thing. Yeah. And if anyone out there would like to help me, what I'd really love to do is have a Google map with pins dropped where all the socials are, and just to regularly keep reaching out, see if anyone knows any. So it's ticking along, but I could do better with it, is what I would say.
Yeah, guess it kind of needs engagement from all the people who run the different socials as well, and then that you can keep up to date with what's going on.
Yeah, and I just need a little buddy to help me to keep it going, really, because on a week where I'm super busy, if someone else is just chipping away at it, because it's so close, and I do put on there whenever I see something, I'll put it on there, but it's relying on me stumbling on it rather than people telling me at the moment.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a really good idea, so I'm looking forward to seeing that grow, and hopefully you'll get some people to help you with that.
Yeah, that would be good.
So is there anything else that you want to chat about before we wrap this conversation up?
No, I did bring a fabric. You said ask people for help with the fabric, so I've got one. So would you like me to share it?
Yeah, go for it.
So it's like a plissé, but it's like, it feels like a lightweight jersey at the same time. So no, some plissé feels like woven, doesn't it? But this feels more like a jersey. I don't know how's that. Can you see it all right?
Oh yeah.
So it's got a lot of stretch in it. And so I'm trying to, oh, there you go. So I'll just do it again. So it's got a lot of stretch, and wonderful drape. And there you can see the plissé. I would like to make a top with this, and I'd just like suggestions on what top pattern might work well, or an idea for it. I've not sewn with this before. I don't think I'm going to need to hem it, to be honest. Looking at like the cut edge.
Well, I guess if it's the sort of jersey, it won't fray.
Yeah. Yeah, but I just love an idea. One person said to me, "What about like a cow neck?" But if anyone knows any good patterns or anything, I'd love some ideas. It's super soft as well.
Yeah, interestingly, that was my first thought as well, a cowl neck, when I was just looking at all the drape of it. So yeah, maybe we have to think about some good.
Yeah, I'd love to know if anyone knows a good pattern for that.
Yeah, let us know in the comments if you've got any ideas for that fabric. We'll have to check back in the comments afterwards as well for the people who watch it later. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Sam. And yeah, really massive luck with the socials and the sewing directory and the podcast and sewing all your trousers and everything that you've got going on. It sounds really exciting.
There is a comment that happens in our house which goes, "What are you doing now?" I'm like, I'm having fun. So
Excellent.
thank you, Yvette. It's been really lovely. And this is 2 days running we've had a chat, and we haven't overlapped at all, have we?
Yeah, that's just how much there is to talk about sewing.
So I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. And if people haven't heard the podcast, we'd love people to, because we've only got one episode out at the moment. Jess and I really enjoyed it. We had a lovely chat with Yvette yesterday, and it's a different thing to doing YouTube, and we'd really love people to let us know if they enjoy it or not, because we'd like to keep going, but we'll only keep going if people want to listen to us, really. So.
Yeah. So the podcast is called So What's New in the Biscuit Tin. So I'm quite excited for when my episode does come out, because I'm going to buy some biscuits to celebrate, I think.
Yeah, and when Jess and I film together, we will definitely be eating biscuits whilst filming, recording. We normally do it virtually just to fit in with everything, but she's promised me she'll bring me some Cornish fairies, because I've never had them.
Excellent.
So,
Yeah, when she was like, I feel like a Cornish fairy, I was like, I don't know about this. Like, what is this?
yeah, but that's the great thing, though. Jess and I are similar but different, and so she'll bring something to the table that I don't know, and vice versa. So yes, I have no idea what a Cornish fairy biscuit's like, but as soon as I get some, I will share pictures with everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we got biscuits
yeah,
and cookies. Yeah.
yeah, I had this chat with somebody in my virtual social, and we must remember to clarify this. Yeah. So in the UK, we separate cookies and biscuits as all part of like a sweet, sugary thing.
Yeah.
In the US, we know that cookies are all types of, they're not just one type of what we call biscuit, but biscuits in the US are a savoury thing.
Yeah. They're more like a sort of, I don't know, like breakfasty thing or something, aren't
Yes,
they?
it's almost like a sort of boring flat scone, I kind of think it as. Yeah. So a lovely lady called Diane was explaining this to us and asking us. Yes, Jill, you're not the only one, and I keep trying to remember. Diane was helping me the other day with this, and I was trying to explain to Diane that for us, a cookie is one very specific thing.
Yeah,
And
I feel
how
like a
you
cookie is
explain that?
softer. A cookie is
Well, you
softer,
say
and
that, but then Maryland cookies are not, are they?
but I think that's because they're American.
That's
So
true.
they're American just was like, these are cookies. But
Yeah,
yeah, I feel like something with chocolate chip is more cookie-ish
yeah.
than
So, like, an
biscuity. I don't know.
Oreo is only called an Oreo in the US. They don't call it like a cookie or a biscuit. And I was saying to like Diane that an Oreo is a type of biscuit to us.
Yeah. Well, the idea of calling like a custard cream a cookie to me is dreadful. That's
Right.
wrong. I'm sorry, Jill.
And then Diane said to me, because I told her about custard cream, she went, "What's a custard cream?" I was like, "I'm like, it's a vanilla version of an Oreo."
Yeah.
Couldn't think
It's
how
like,
to
imagine an
explain it.
Oreo, but it's like
It's like a sugar
white.
cookie with vanilla in the middle, because Americans have sugar cookies, which are like a plain, what we would call a plain biscuit. It's like, oh my, what did we
Yeah.
do there using that word biscuit?
But yeah, thank you for joining, Jill. I'm glad that you enjoyed the YouTube format, because I was a bit nervous hosting this, if like it was even going to work. But yeah,
Yeah.
thanks everyone who joined and watched live. Thought custard cream was a pudding. Be prepared to be disappointed by a custard cream biscuit. That's all I have to say.
I'm going to put a picture. I don't know if Jill follows me on Instagram, but if you don't, Jill, I'm going to put a picture on my stories of a custard cream later, especially for you, Jill. And I'm not going to explain it, so everyone else will be wondering why I've got that picture on there.
And also for your fabric you asked about, there's oh no, I'm back on biscuits or cookies. There's a pattern by the Atelier Maker, apparently. So I
Oh,
have to
right.
look
I'll
up
have a
that.
look at that. That's a good tip. Thank you for that. Yeah, I will go and have a look.
But yeah, anyway, thank you everyone for joining, and thanks to Sam. I'm going to end the stream now, but hopefully this will be on YouTube afterwards as well if you missed any of it. But yeah, thanks everyone, and I will see you next week for another Stash Chat
Bye.
Live. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.